Welcome to Vox Orthodoxa. Imagine, for a moment, being told that the crushing anxiety of your daily commute,
hmm
or the deafening noise of your demanding life, or the financial stress keeping you awake at night, are actually the exact tools you need to find perfect inner peace.
It does sound entirely backward to our modern sensibilities, doesn't it?
It really does. I
Yeah.
mean, we are taught to escape the noise, right? To optimize our lives until the friction just sort of disappears. But today, we want to invite you to step away from the rushing currents of your day and join us in a quiet, contemplative space to challenge that modern assumption.
Yes, to just slow down for a moment.
Exactly. Today, we are taking a deep dive into Volume 11 of the Philokalia, and we're focusing on the spiritual letters of two 6th-century desert fathers from Gaza, Saints Barsanuphius and John. And our mission today is not to deliver a dry theological lecture.
No, not at all.
Instead, we are here to gently explore a delicate matter of the soul. These ancient letters, they were written to monks and regular lay people alike, and they serve as a timeless, deeply empathetic guide for finding unshakable love, inner stillness, and hope.
It truly is a profound privilege to share in this quiet reflection with you. And I think what makes the letters of these two saints so astonishingly relevant to you today is their sheer realism.
Right, they aren't just abstract theories.
Not at all. These elders did not sit on high thrones dispensing rigid, one-size-fits-all formulas. They possessed a staggering level of empathy. They carefully tailored their spiritual guidance to the exact spiritual capacity of the person asking the question.
Which is so rare, honestly.
It is. They understood the human heart in all its fragility, and they recognized that true spiritual growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens precisely in the messiness, the difficulty of our daily lives.
And before we can find that perfect peace they speak of, we often have to face that turbulent reality head on. We have to acknowledge the storm.
Yes. The storm is unavoidable.
There is a beautiful, striking analogy in the text regarding this. The elder writes, "Before the ship reaches the port, it is struck and tossed by waves and whirlwinds. But when it reaches the port, it finally finds much stillness." Okay, let's unpack this, because the mechanism of this idea is so important.
It really is the foundation of their guidance.
Right. If you are listening to this right now, perhaps packed onto a crowded subway car or sitting in heavy traffic, you are navigating your own storm. And modern society operates on a very specific premise, which is that the goal of life is to find life hacks to avoid or bypass discomfort entirely.
We constantly try to insulate ourselves.
Exactly. We try to outsmart the storm, to build a life so insulated that the waves never reach us. Yet this ancient text insists that we must actually endure the whirlwind. And I want to push back on this concept slightly, just representing the modern skeptical mind here.
Please do. It's a necessary question.
If I am in a profoundly exhausting situation, a chaotic city, a deeply demanding job, enduring the storm sounds a bit like, well, toxic positivity. Shouldn't we try to escape our discomfort rather than just sitting there and suffering? Why does the text insist on endurance?
What's fascinating here is the crucial distinction they make about the nature of peace. What we are exploring here is the concept of odina, which translates to rest.
Rest.
Yes. And in this spiritual tradition, true rest is absolutely not the absence of trouble. It isn't a life emptied of stress. Rather, it is a profound spiritual peace that is acquired specifically through patience.
So it's not about forcing a smile while the ship sinks,
Mhm.
like toxic positivity would suggest.
Precisely. Toxic positivity demands that we pretend the storm isn't happening. The elders are suggesting something radically different. They are saying that enduring hardships with grace actually changes the internal architecture of your soul. It relativizes our worldly attachments.
How so? Can you give a practical example of that?
Well, think about the psychological mechanism at play when you are sitting in terrible traffic. If you grip the steering wheel, furious that you cannot control the vehicles around you, your ego is suffering because it demands mastery over the universe.
Right, we want to control everything.
Exactly. But if you sit in that same traffic and practice patience, you are physically and mentally teaching your brain that you do not need to control the universe to be okay. It loosens the tight, anxious grip of the ego.
That makes a lot of sense.
When we realize that our ultimate security doesn't come from micromanaging our environment, we open ourselves up to a much deeper reliance on God's unending love. The storm doesn't exist to break the ship. It exists to teach the ship that its true anchor is not of this world.
That reframing requires a complete shift in our internal posture. We are no longer trying to change the weather. We are changing how we stand in the rain. But if enduring the storm is required, we have to ask a deeply practical question. How do we actually find a moment of quiet while the whirlwind is raging all around us? This brings us to the text's nuanced definition of stillness, or laity.
Yes, and the elders offer a brilliant corrective to how we usually think about stillness. In the text, a brother essentially asks the elder if physical isolation is the highest spiritual goal.
Like, is the ultimate achievement simply getting away from everyone and moving to a cave?
Exactly. And the elder's response cuts right to the heart of the matter. He explains that true stillness is not about locking yourself in a room. It is about gathering the heart inward and showing mercy.
Showing mercy. That's a very active thing, not a passive withdrawal.
It is. He firmly reminds the brother that mercy is greater than sacrifice. A false stillness one achieved simply by avoiding difficult people, but devoid of love only breeds pride.
Oh, wow.
It creates a cold, isolated ego, completely untouched by the transfiguring warmth of God. You might be alone in the woods, but you have brought the chaotic, noisy storm of your own unhealed mind right there with you.
That presents a fascinating challenge for a regular person living in a crowded, noisy city. If true stillness isn't physical isolation, how does one achieve this gathering of the heart amidst the chaos?
It's difficult, but the text offers a stunning image to illustrate this. It describes a craftsman.
Right, the craftsman analogy.
Yes, this craftsman is conversing with people while he works. His outward face is pleasant and appropriate. He's fully engaged in his trade, and yet the text says his mind remains entirely focused on his craft.
So we must ask ourselves, can we be like that craftsman?
Yeah.
If you're sitting in a chaotic, demanding office, how do you practically maintain that profound inner focus? How do you build that silence when the phones are ringing and people are demanding your attention?
The mechanism the elders describe is both profound and deeply practical. They say the craftsman's outward face is present to the world, but his inner thought sighs for God. It is about constructing a secret, quiet little temple in the heart.
A little temple in the heart. That's beautiful.
It is. Practically speaking, this means creating a continuous internal posture of longing, or a silent, anchoring prayer, even while your hands and your outward attention are engaged with the world.
Like putting on mental noise-canceling headphones in a way.
Yes, but with a crucial difference. You are not putting them on to ignore the human being standing in front of you. Rather, you are blocking out the internal anxiety and the ego's constant demand for attention so that you can actually be present with a quiet spirit.
I see. So you're still present for the person.
Exactly. You maintain a sacred internal sanctuary where you constantly meet God. The profound truth here is that you do not have to flee the city to find the desert. If you cultivate this inner temple, you carry the vast, quiet expanse of the desert within you wherever you go.
Which means that true stillness does not require us to sever our ties with humanity. In fact, realizing that true stillness involves mercy and existing alongside others with a pleasant face and a sighing heart reveals something essential. It shows that the spiritual journey is fundamentally about connection.
It is entirely about connection.
Here's where it gets profoundly interesting. The text has this theological image where the elders state that the devil is coldness and is the source of all coldness in the world. Conversely, Christ is the fire that warms the heart to perfect love.
A very stark contrast.
Very stark. And we need to pause and examine how sharply this contrasts with our modern cultural instincts. Today, spirituality and mental well-being are so often framed as hyper-individualistic solo projects.
Very much so.
The modern wellness space constantly preaches about self-care, about building impenetrable personal boundaries and cutting people off to protect our own peace and energy. It encourages us to build a digital and emotional fortress. How does the wisdom of these desert fathers challenge that instinct?
If we connect this to the bigger picture laid out in the text, the challenge to our modern mindset is absolute. The foundational premise of this entire spiritual worldview is that no one is saved alone.
No one is saved alone.
Exactly. The concept is known as soberness, a radical, deep, warm togetherness. The entire purpose of the Holy Spirit's work is to draw us out of the cold, isolated prison of our own egoism.
So building that fortress of boundaries.
When you build a fortress of boundaries to keep all the difficult people out, you might successfully avoid some pain, sure. But the elders would argue that you are freezing to death inside your own walls. You are choosing the coldness.
Wow. That is a heavy thought. So how do we step out of the cold?
The mechanism they offer to step into the fire is mutual prayer. The text explicitly states that when you ask others to pray for you, it cures your pride.
Because you have to admit you need help.
Right. You are forced to abandon the illusion of self-sufficiency. You must look at another human being and admit your weakness. And conversely, when you pray for others, it cures your envy.
I never thought of it that way.
It's profound, isn't it? You cannot simultaneously harbor bitterness towards someone while genuinely begging the Creator to heal their soul and grant them joy. The very act of carrying someone else's burden rewires the architecture of your heart. We are essentially warming each other up in the fire of Christ's love.
And it's a beautiful, staggering vision of a shared spiritual life. We are literally keeping each other warm in a cold world. But we must acknowledge the heavy reality of the human condition here.
We do, yes.
What happens when a person feels too broken, too cold, or too weighed down by their own past mistakes to even enter into this beautiful communion? If you're carrying a deep sense of unworthiness, the idea of stepping into the fire of perfect love feels impossible. When the burden of regret is too heavy, how do we find our way back?
This is exactly where the profound tenderness of Saints Barsanuphius and John shines the brightest. They understood the crushing, paralyzing weight of guilt better than anyone, and their response to it is breathtaking in its gentleness.
We see such touching examples of this in how they dealt with regular people struggling with very ordinary, very human flaws. There was a moment where a layman writes to the elder, confessing that he got drunk, and he's asking for forgiveness.
Yes, a very common failing.
Right. And in our modern world, we might expect a harsh lecture or a demand for severe penance. But the elder does not berate him. He simply gently tells him to wake up from the heavy sleep of worldly cares.
It's so gentle.
It really is. And then there's an even more striking example. An elder is writing to a brother who is clearly drowning in the weight of his past failures. And the elder boldly declares to him that his many sins from his youth all the way until that very moment are completely forgiven, just like that.
A total washing away.
He urges the brother to simply drop the heavy burden and love God with all his power. So what does this all mean? How can we accept this level of profound, sweeping forgiveness when we are so often our own harshest critics? So many of us drag the heavy baggage of our past mistakes through the city streets every single day, completely refusing to put it down.
This raises an important question about the nature of guilt itself. We must look deeply at the psychological and spiritual mechanism of guilt to understand this. The elders offer a deeply challenging insight here.
What was that?
Holding on to past guilt and constantly obsessing over our own unworthiness is often just another subtle, disguised form of ego and pride.
Wait, really? Guilt is a form of pride?
Yes, think about it. When you endlessly fixate on your past mistakes, you are keeping yourself at the absolute center of the universe. You are essentially telling God that your personal sins are more powerful and more significant than his infinite capacity for mercy.
Oh, well, I see.
The text begs us to throw the past behind. Dropping the guilt is not about letting yourself off the hook. It is an act of profound humility. It is stepping out of the spotlight and trusting entirely in the absolute, overwhelming tenderness of the great physician.
That is a deeply healing thought.
These elders treat the human soul with such reverence. They do not view it as something to be punished, but as a precious, fragile vessel. A vessel that does not need to be broken or condemned, but simply unburdened. It needs to be emptied of its heavy, cold guilt so that it can finally be filled with warm, eternal light.
The idea that letting go of our self-condemnation is actually an act of humility, a simple unburdening of the vessel. It completely changes how you view your own soul, your daily struggles, and ultimately your place in the universe.
It truly does. And if you follow this understanding of deep love and connection to its ultimate conclusion, it leads to a final staggering thought found in the theological introduction to this text. It is a thought we hope you carry with you into the quiet moments of your day.
Let me share it.
The text suggests that the entire physical cosmos, the endless galaxies, the burning stars, the vastness of the earth and the oceans, has absolutely no meaning on its own. Without consciousness, the universe is simply blind, silent matter. You, the conscious human person, are the reason the cosmos has value. Because you, and only you, are capable of receiving and giving eternal love. You are the space where the universe wakes up, becomes aware of itself, and learns to return love to its creator. The storm you are enduring, the inner temple you are building, the warmth you share with others, it is all part of giving meaning to the very stars.
Consider the weight and the beauty of that responsibility. You are the heartbeat of the cosmos. We want to thank you deeply for sharing this quiet, contemplative space with us today and for walking through this ancient healing wisdom. Thanks for watching until the end. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it. It helps us out a lot. If you're new here, hit subscribe and the notification bell to be notified when we post next time. See you soon.